georeferencing your tax maps. This will be your first step. The first step that takes place towards getting the project going. After you get these things digitally, you're going to want to georeference them and rectify them. And doing that, your orthophoto is your main tool, your main base layer for rectifying it. Intersections, roadway intersections are usually your go-to on tax maps. Sometimes you have tax maps that don't have much of a right-of-way depicted on them, and in these cases you've got to get a little bit more creative and look for maybe field lines, fence lines that you can associate with a certain property, corners that you may be able to associate with the property on the tax map and avoid them. You've got to get a little creative with that sometimes. Careful of using existing vector data. What I mean by that is if you have a existing centerline file, for example, and so this is going to be useful. You've got your road names are on your tax maps. You've got a centerline file so you can get to these areas to use these intersections to rectify your maps. All I mean by that is you don't want to take the control point for rectifying straight from your tax map to the centerline intersection. You want to be sure to reference the ortho here. The reason for that is depending on how and why the centerline file was created, that intersection may not be quite in the center of where that intersection is meeting up on your orthophotos. And that can make a difference when you're rectifying these maps. You want to, ideally you're going to have 4 good control points when you're rectifying. Everything's going to seam together and it's going to be good control and you're going to be able to rectify and match it up with your ground features. That's not always the case. Oftentimes you're going to have to settle for maybe 3 control features or maybe even 2 in kind of the worst case scenario and you don't have much to work on, which happens when you're in big woodland tracks and there's not a whole lot you have to reference. And that's okay if you don't get 4 control. You can go with 3 or 2. You just want to be sure to avoid what I've got up there is image warping, and that'll be either your RM, SE errors, your routine errors. And once that's going to be your images, if you've done much rectifying, if you got a bad control point in relation to already established control, you're going to get kind of a fat blue line that's going to draw between those 2 points. And when that happens, that's arcs letting you know that, hey, this is off. We're pulling against each other here. It's going to start to distort the image. If you ever get those blue lines, you got to get rid of that point. You got to try something else. You don't want to rectify with that much distortion. They're not always going to be perfect. Sometimes you're going to have to just settle for close, and that's okay. It's better to be close than to have bad control and have a more distorted image. So once you get through your rectifying process, and now you've got your tax maps countywide, you got them rectified in XY locations, so they're sitting, close to where these property boundaries need to be drawn. The plats that you have digital. At this point, you're going to want to start trying to locate these. You want to get sort of an XY basically on where these plats fall throughout the county. In some counties, in the tax data, you will have plat book and page references. It's not something we've seen, something we really come across in regards to IS data. But that's okay. You may be lucky enough at your county to have your own database, maybe, or maybe even a hard copy that might relate plats to individual parcel numbers. If so, you want to be sure to use that. Maybe not get your hopes up unless you know someone's maintaining something like that in your county. And it's okay if you don't have that. But my point there is, if there is such information, now is the time that you would want to try to track it down if it exists. If it doesn't exist, then what we do is use the vicinity information on the plats to locate them. That'll be any road names that are shown, any vicinity maps that make it actual intersections that are close by of road names, property owner names that you can then relate. You can then look up in your IS data, find the map and parcel number it's associated with, find it that way. Sometimes you're lucky enough to have references written on, for subdivisions and things, on your tax maps booking page. And sometimes you got adjoining properties that will give you this is such and such unbuilt, and now we're formally Jones property, deep looking deep page, or you might get lucky enough to have a map number and parcel number there. So basically any information we can get from that plat to locate it, we want to try to locate as many of these as we can on the front end. And as we're doing this, we create what we call a plat reference point. So we drop a point that has the name of this plat and this location, so we know, okay, this plat goes here. These are the ones that are going to get mapped first. That's the reason for pinning these down in the beginning.